We are joined once again by Lincoln Mitchell. He is the national political correspondent for the New York Observer, and Tara Dowdell, a political and business marketing consultant. Lincoln, I'm going to start with you this time. I started with Tara last time. I'm going to quote two candidates. Here we go again, and Florida, Florida, Florida. So who wins?
Who wins Florida?
Yeah.
Well, the stakes are enormous for Marco Rubio.
Right.
Having said that, I think if I had to bet, I'd bet on Donald Trump, but I don't bet on politics. I've learned that lesson over and over again this year. Rubio has to win Florida. If Trump picks up all of those delegates, the Stop Trump movement is over. Additionally, if Rubio loses Florida, he's got to run for re-election in Florida in a primary later this year if he chooses to, and then in a general later this year. It's his first term. This is a real slap from the voters of Florida. So his whole political future, this is a guy who should be looking at 2020, but he's got to win Florida first. And that leads me to believe that if he's still down 20 points in the polls, he maybe gets out of this.
Because the Republican establishment is so angry at Donald Trump, does Jeb Bush campaign for Marco Rubio in Florida?
Jeb Bush has to campaign for Marco Rubio in Florida. I'm not sure how influential Jeb Bush is in Florida or anywhere these days, but I would think absolutely.
Dell keeps bringing up this word anger, and I just want to talk about the fact that there has been stagnant wage growth in this country since the recession. There has been 2% growth. That anger is not unfounded among voters of Trump and possibly, in some cases, the voters of Sanders. They have that same sense of income inequality. Are we overemphasizing, as the media, the sort of racial issues that have come up because of the crazy things Donald Trump has said, and not focusing on the real legitimate concerns of some of these voters that support Trump?
You know, there was an extraordinary, one of the early debates when the whole cast of about 10 was up there on the Republican side, and they all spoke about the economy that you would have expected in a Democratic debate circa 1984, right? The government doesn't care about working people. We're going to turn these people around. We're going to make wages better. So when you ask, has Bernie Sanders pushed Hillary Clinton to the left on economic issues, what we're seeing is that everyone has to talk about these economic issues in a different way, because people are aware that growth is not equal, that wages are not growing up, and everyone has had to respond to that. And I wouldn't say that the voters voting for Trump and for Sanders are the only people concerned about these issues.
Right.
An awful lot of people voting for Hillary Clinton or perhaps Ted Cruz feel that way as well, but they feel that those candidates are going to represent that. Maybe their temperament isn't as angry, but their concerns might be the same.
And I was just going to add to that. I think, you know, we've seen income inequality grow in this country for the last 35 years, 35 to 40 years, actually. And I think that the recession really, really just made it so acute for people in their lives. And I think that people are now there with the cost of college, with their kids coming out of college and not being able to find a job, with the jobs not paying enough for their kids to make loan payments. I think those sentiments are so
strong.
I would
how does a multi-billionaire then, a multi-billionaire from New York City, end up being the front runner in the Republican Party? How does that make sense?
Because people have felt for a long time, the grassroots of the Republican Party, and the Tea Party is the key manifestation of this, have felt that they have been sold out. The poorer, working, lower income people of the Republican Party feel like they've been sold out by government generally.
Right.
The government is not for
I would
them.
argue that where race comes into this argument is that when a candidate says, because there is an undercurrent out there that believes that my jobs went to China, or my jobs went to Mexico, or after affirmative action, African Americans took my jobs. When a candidate plays on that, real or unreal, it is race baiting. And that is the reason that race and socioeconomics mix. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lincoln.
No, I think that's right, and that's always been true in America, right? And this is kind of when you ask, this is one of the challenges Bernie Sanders hasn't overcome, right? The Bernie Sanders argument is if we address these economic issues, then issues of race will go away. But the history of America says often we address these economic issues often through racism.
And black people felt the same way about Barack Obama immediately after the election because they thought there was going to be this rising tide, and some ships just did not float.
Right, so I think that's a great point. And I think the point about government is that for a lot of white working class people, the Republican Party has set out this narrative that government is bad. And part of the problem with government is that it's taking your money and actually giving it to these minorities. That has been a dog whistle in American politics. So it's not that they don't see. Trump is talking about actually expanding government in many ways. He's saying, let's keep Medicare the same. Let's keep Social Security the same. Let's rebuild rebuild our roads and infrastructure, right? He's saying that should be, when other Republicans said that was not considered conservative. Trump is saying that he's being applauded by Republicans because he's saying, I'm going to give government back to you. It's not that they don't want government. They feel that government's not for them.
What we're also seeing is that the Republican message of low taxes, help the rich, it'll trickle down, that has no currency anymore among Republican primary voters.
We're going to have to leave it there.
Lincoln Mitchell and Tara Dowdell, thank you so much for your insights this morning. Really appreciate it.
Well, here